are going to talk today about a part of the Bible that is almost unread, a part that people find dull, hard to understand, somewhat useless, lots of repetition, talking about land and boundaries, and we want to understand why is this part of our Bible and does it mean something to me today. Today's lecture will be focused on dividing land and lands. And I have made it so simple. Everything we'll talk about today is twos. Yeah? Lecture of twos. Everything, I'll make it simple. Two. You will, at least one of the twos will cling to our head. When we read in this part of Joshua, conquering the land and dividing it, the Lord said to Moses, that was back then in Exodus, the Lord said to Moses, when you enter the land of Canaan, you are to divide the land. And this particular verse gives me, and everybody is reading it, two questions. Number one, who will divide the land? Who is to do it? And I love it about God is that He didn't leave the matter open. He said, these are the names of the two people that are going to assign the land for the inheritance. And He named two people. Their names are Eleazar. Who was Eleazar? The priest, who is the son of Aaron. Aaron, the high priest. Who is Aaron to Moses? His brother. So who is Eleazar to Moses? His nephew. Excellent. And Joshua. So Joshua the warrior, the leader, and Eleazar the priest. These are the two men to divide the land. Number two, how to divide the land. And God said to Moses, distribute the land by lot. When you first read this, you think distributing it by lot or by pieces of land, but really it's not by lot. It is by casting a lot, getting two dice or marbles or the Purim and Thummim that we talked about before, those special stones, and throwing it out. And you throw it and you see, oh, this guy takes first, this guy takes second, this guy takes third. Distribute the land by lot. So the first thing about the distribution is that it's divided by lot. And God is fair. To a large people, give a large inheritance. To a small people, give a small inheritance. So where is the lot in this? If large people get a large land, small people get a small land, where does the lot? The lot decides where the land is. The lot is the idea of the lot, that marble, that two dice you throw to find who is where the land is. But once you've decided where the land is, it's then given to you according to the number of your people. I said this before and I'll say it again. I remember when we were young and it was time for dinner, then my dad would get a piece of chicken or meat and then he said, me and my sister, we want to have portions. Everyone wants to have a bigger portion. My dad will divide and then we will choose. One guy divides and the other guy chooses. It's a fair division. Dividing by lot seemed naive. But I want to tell you that lots are in the hands of God. The lot is in the hand of God. The church uses the idea of lots till today. When we choose a pastor or when we choose a pope, it is done by casting a lot. Till this very day, our pope is chosen by putting the names in a little basket and you have this young boy or an innocent young child put their hand in and pick up a name, and that name chooses the Pope. Of course, this is not haphazard. There are lots of formalities and prayers that take place before that happens. But we believe that the hand of God is there to make that decision. The land is this, my beloved. This land in front of you, it is that land that is in red, the land of Canaan. And you can see there it's bound by two bodies of water. One is big, the Great Sea or the Mediterranean Sea. And the other is that blue river. What's that blue river? That is the Jordan River. Another picture of how the lot was cast and people divided the land, which I'll talk about in a moment. I just want to tell you that these are the boundaries of Canaan. You too, you have your own Canaan. It's better to stay within the boundaries that God chooses for you. Stay and be content and be happy and thankful and have an attitude of gratitude to the land, to the family, to the home that God has put you in. You see, if these people wandered out to the right, they will be hit by the desert. To the east side, dry, hot, windy, thirsty, hungry. Don't go out. If you go out to the world, that's how you will see people are living. It seems enticing. The grass is greener on the other side. But when you go outside what God has bounded for you, if you live outside your boundaries, you will pay the price. And if you go to the other side, the west, you will see the sea. The sea with its turmoil, with its big fish to swallow you, the salty water. You will never, never, never feel or quench your thirst. Stay within the boundaries. And here I've chosen today's lecture is all about two. So here's two boundaries. Stay within them. Let's move on to the next slide. Again, two divisions. And here is the big land of Canaan, and I've divided it, or the Bible has divided it for us by a blue line. That blue line is nothing but the Jordan River. Some tribes have taken on the west side of the Jordan River, which is this side, and some tribes have taken to the east side. You can see how many tribes took to the east. We talked about that in the back room, 2.5 tribes. So Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben. So all of Reuben, all of Gad, and all of Manasseh. Is that correct? No, half of Manasseh. Because when you look to the west, you can see another part of Manasseh. And that blue line that I've put there joins a little water pod up there. That's the Sea of Galilee. And the Jordan River goes down to the Dead Sea. So the two divisions, 2.5 tribes on the east, and the rest of the tribes on the west. Let's today focus for a minute only about those 2.5 tribes. I asked you in the back room, do you remember what they're called? The Bible calls these the Trans-Jordan tribes. You see that top right-hand corner? Those are the 2.5 tribes. They're called the Trans-Jordan tribes. These are the tribes that chose to stay on the east side because the land looked fertile. They were a big people with lots of pasture, and they said, well, the land on the east side of the Jordan is very fertile, lots of water, we can feed our animals. They chose by sight, whereas a Christian needs to live by faith. Do you remember someone who did the same? Yes. In the book of Genesis, the Bible tells us about this young boy, the nephew of Abram. His name was Lot. Abram told him, here is the land before you, choose. He looked to the right and he saw something beautiful. He looked to the left and saw something not so good. He chose what to his eyes looked beautiful. Eventually, the land that he chose turned out to be Sodom and Gomorrah. Poor and bad choice. They did not wait on God. They made their own decision and did not wait. Learn to wait on God. Waiting on God means be patient. Waiting on God means learn to say, God, I want to follow your clock, your decision. Man is always restless, wants things today before tomorrow. God says, wait, be patient, do not rush. And as we answered in the back room, those 2.5 tribes, the land was later attacked by people. You see, God wanted his people to live right here. You see, these two areas, they're protected by two large bodies of water. But when man chooses, he chose a land that has no protection or protection only from one side. And they were always, as we will study in the Bible, attacked. They did not wait. They wanted to be first. Okay. Just look at this map because it's important. When we understand the geography, we'll understand what's going to happen in the Bible in years to come or in future lessons of Hosanna. I see here on the left side, you can see there's a body of water, the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, and the River Jordan to the east and to the right of it. Those are the Trans-Jordan tribes, the 2.5 tribes. This next slide is important. We're going to take at least 2 minutes to go through it together. Joshua cast lots, and he threw the dice along with Eleazar after lots of prayers, and the land was divided in such a manner. To the east, 2.5 tribes. To the west, 9.5 tribes. If you look, tell me, where do you see the tribe of Levi? You will not find it, because Levi, the priests, did not have an inheritance. Their inheritance was God. So how come they are 12 tribes still? If we take away the Levites, they should be 11 tribes left. But you would remember that Joseph had 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, and each one of them took a portion. And that's why the one tribe of Joseph is actually how many tribes? 2. And that brings us to the 12 tribes of Israel. I'm going to ask and you answer. What is the most south tribe to the west of the Jordan? The tribe of the tribe of Judah. Who came from that tribe? Jesus Christ. Very good. And you can see that Judah had an important city within it. Remember those names. We're going to just keep hammering the names. The city of, in blue there, Hebron. Okay? And then, just on the north of Judah, I don't know if it's clear enough, there is a little, what's the smallest tribe of all? Can you see them on the map? Benjamin. Excellent. So those are the southern tribes. Why is this relevant to you and to me today? Later we will read that Israel, those 12 tribes, they were divided into northern Israel and southern Israel. And so the southern Israel would be nothing but the 2 tribes of Judah and Benjamin. I want you just to zone in on Benjamin with me for a moment. Benjamin, the smallest tribe, yet the Bible tells us that its land was the most fertile land. The best land was the land that fell in the allotment of Benjamin. Christ said when we go to heaven, who thought will be first are going to be last. And who thought they were smallest and last may be first, as we see here. This is a depiction of our heavenly Canaan. Not only that, if you look, I just want to focus again on Benjamin, that little piece of land, the smallest tribe, had very important cities in it, and they're listed for you in red. They had the land of Gibeon, or the city of Gibeon, we talked about. They had the city of Jericho, we talked about. They had the city of Gilgal, which we talked about. I don't want to repeat. And they also had the important city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem fell into the portion of that little Benjamite tribe. Many last will be first, and many first will be last. What we learned from this slide is that the 12 tribes were divided, some to the east, most to the west. And if you draw a line just above Benjamin, Benjamin and Judah will constitute most of the southern Israel. The rest will be the top. Before I leave this slide, I want to say one last thing. The tribe of Simeon. The tribe of Simeon was taken in the middle of Judah. Judah had a beautiful heart, the priestly or the big kingdom of Judah, and they accepted their brothers Simeon in between. Another busy slide before we go into the practicalities of things. I just want to zone in on this central part of Israel, just to show you that Ephraim, the one just above Benjamin had a place called Shiloh, and I'll talk about it in a second. And Benjamin had, I just want to see the names so that we become familiar. Hebron, you can see this bottom part was in Judah. And I want to tell you that Hebron is an important city. We will talk about it in a second. And then the center of all this map. Who can you point which city is the center of all this map you can see? Yes, you are right. It is the city of Shiloh. Important name. I'm going to keep repeating it. The city or the town of Shiloh, the center of all. And it was in Ephraim. Why is this relevant? God chose to be present in that city, the city of Shiloh. He told Moses, this is the place I want to build my tabernacle. This is where I want to dwell with man. Today, where is the city of God? Where does He dwell? He dwells in our hearts. Christ said that if 2 or 3 stand together to pray, there I will be with them. That will be our Shiloh. Again, keeping the theme of 2. Today's lecture on those 10 chapters we're studying talked about 2 important men. Here they are, them Joshua and Caleb. This picture is taken from 40 years ago when they went to spy the land of Canaan. They came back and they said, yes, this is good land, we can take it. Out of the 12 spies, they were the only 2 that had faith in God. God said, you will possess the land. And they said, yes, we can possess the land. Everybody else said, no, we cannot possess the land. They were people of faith. Believe it or not, they were lost in the wilderness for 40 years. Everybody from that generation, everyone died except these 2 people because they were full of faith. They were the only 2 people that went into the promised land. Who are they? Joshua and Caleb. And here we can see Caleb speaks to Joshua. Caleb is the man standing and Joshua is the man sitting down. And here the first man of the 2 people is Caleb. And he goes to Joshua, as we read, and he told him, Joshua, give me the hill country, nothing less. As Miriam sometimes tells me, go big or go home. That's what he did. He went to Joshua and he told him, give me the hill country, something big. Caleb waited for 45 years to get the land. How long are you willing to wait on God's promise to you? If God had spoken in your heart about something, and it doesn't happen today, it doesn't happen next week, it doesn't happen next month, be patient. Caleb waited for 45 years until he became an old man to claim the right of his land. We too need to be a little patient. I've written here, Hebrews 6, those who through faith and patience will inherit the land that was promised. And I've put here the quote that the Bible said about Caleb said to Joshua, here I am today, 85 years old. I am still strong today as 40 years ago when Moses sent me out. How can an 80-year-old man feel so strong like he's 40? How? How is that possible at that time? What is the secret? The secret is this. Isaiah says it very clearly. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. Take that promise. They will soar on wings of eagle, and they will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. I will read it one more time. Just the word of God plainly before your eyes and hopefully before your heart. Those who wait on the Lord, those who hope on God, will renew their strength. Just like that eagle. They will soar on wings like eagle. And there's an explanation which I won't go into detail. They will run and they will not grow weary. They will walk and they will not be faint. And that's why Caleb said those words, I am 85, but I am strong today as the days of young. And Joshua told him, no problem. You want the hill country? We're going to give you, here it is, Hebron. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, and his father is always mentioned, the son of Jephunneh. And it says he got that city, look at the words of the Bible, because he followed the Lord wholeheartedly. Because he followed the Lord wholeheartedly. Ask yourself, would that apply to me? Does that impact my life? Do I follow my God wholeheartedly? That means all your heart is for God. King David said, teach me your ways, O Lord, that I may rely on your faithfulness. Give me an undivided heart. Caleb was that man, full of faith, and he got what he wanted, the big city of Hebron. The man Caleb is an important man. I wish that we had the same faith that he had. In Egyptian, Caleb stands for Qalb or heart. He had the right heart, the heart of God. The second man is this man, Joshua. The Bible says when Joshua had grown old, the Lord told him, you are now very old and there are still very large areas of land to take. Joshua, not just old in years, but old in wisdom. My beloved, many people have gray hair, but they're still unwise. Many people have grown in years, but not in wisdom. The beginning of wisdom is the fear of God. That's how you know someone is old and wise. And though Joshua was old, he still was used by God. I know of older men that think they have no role in the church. They have no role. There's nothing to do. A woman would say, "I'm done. My kids are married. They have children. I am useless." I tell you, you are wrong. You have a lot of work to do. You can serve in the church. If you don't serve in your family, if you don't do something with your grandchildren, invest in your grandchildren, give them the wisdom of the years that life has taught you. Yes, you can be old, but yet be used by God. Joshua was the leader. But when we read, I am shocked to see that he chose his allotment, his portion. What does that say? What's that in the red circle? He chose his portion the last. That's the sign of a good leader. Puts himself at the end. Today's leaders want to take things first. I would have thought that he wanted to take the first allotment. I choose the best land. I am the leader I deserve. But Joshua is modest. Are you humble? Do you choose the best dinner plate? Do you choose the best dinner spot? Do you choose for yourself the best and leave the least for others? Christianity is about putting yourself last. Like Jesus said, if you go to a meeting, if you go to a wedding, sit at the very end so that the owner of the wedding will tell you, come to the front and will give you glory. But if you come like me and sit at the very first bench, the master of ceremony may tell you, please, this is not your spot. Go back. Be humble. Those are the two men. And Joshua, I want you to know or make a point that he was from Ephraim. Joshua was an Ephraimite from the tribe of Ephraim. Ephraim had a brother. His name was Manasseh. And both had a father. His name was Joseph. This is important in a minute or two. Those are the two people we remember today. Joshua, important name, important man. Name your children Joshua. Teach them the faith of Caleb. Joshua, the leadership, the warriorship, and Caleb, the man of faith. The only two people that went into the land of Canaan out of millions of Israelites. Why? Because they had faith. I will say it and I'll say it again. God is moved by your faith. God is not moved by your circumstances. God is not moved by your pain. God is not moved by your sorrow. He will move when He sees your faith. After these two great people, sadly, we see two bad examples again in these chapters. If you read carefully these chapters, as was the homework questions, you would have noted that these two brothers, Ephraim and Manasseh, I want to show you just back in the picture here. Look with me, if you will, how small is Manasseh? Small or big? What do you think? Two of them? Very big. They're almost half the land. So Manasseh on the east, Manasseh on the west, and also Ephraim. You can see Ephraim right there in the middle. Big, big. Pink, green, and less green. I would say that's 50% of Israel. If I was them, I will be thankful. But we read, sadly, the story of these two tribes. They come to Joshua, the leader, and they are discontent. They're not happy. They say, we are a big people. We want more land. We want something bigger. Give us more land. They grumbled. They were not happy with their allotment. Do you remember what Joshua told them? If you had read the text, you'll see that Joshua told them, no, that's your share. You stick with it. And he did not give them extra land. He said no. Although Joshua was also from the tribe of Ephraim, he said no to his own people. That's a good leader. That's a good leader. No favoritism. I just told you a moment ago that Joshua was from the tribe of Ephraim. And Ephraim are the people that complained, yet Joshua did not give them. I learn again from Joshua that I have to be a fair judge in situations and do not show favoritism to one or the other. They were not happy with their share. What about you? Are you happy with your allotment? I know some people say, oh, I wish I was a boy, or I wish I was a girl, or I wish God had given me a boy, or I wish God had given me a girl. I wish I was married to this woman. I wish I was married to this guy. I wish I had a big family, small family. I don't know, but we grumble just like these two people. We grumble and are discontent. And that robs you out of the joy that God gave you. It robs the joy from the gift that God gave you. Enjoy what God has given you. Be content and say, thank you, God. I am very happy with my spouse. I'm very happy with my current home. I am very content with my children. That's the way they are. They could be better, but that's what God gave me. I am happy and content. I am happy with my condo. I'm happy with the noise that's there. I am happy with whatever situation. Be thankful and do not grumble like the people of Manasseh. Another person I want to talk to you about, another bad example, is written in Joshua 18:2. That there were tribes that did not take their part right away. They delayed. It says there remained among the children of Israel how many tribes? How many tribes do you read there? 7 tribes which did not receive their inheritance. They didn't think it was important. Do you care about your inheritance? I will ask that question again. Do I care about my heavenly inheritance? I can tell you I care very much about my earthly inheritance. You come touch my property and I'll cut your hand. But how zealous am I about my heavenly inheritance? Do I work for it? Do I invest in it? Do I think of it? Am I zealous and eager, or am I lazy and full of contempt like these 7 tribes? 2 bad examples in front of us, and we learn lots from the story of Ephraim and Manasseh and the story of the 7 tribes. Go and claim your promise from God quickly. On the other hand, there are 2 great examples. And the Bible does care about women. Every time I read, I see that the women of the Bible are important. Remember this name, Aksa. I'll say it again. Aksa. You see that name? Aksa. It's that woman. Aksa was the daughter of this important man. What was his name? Caleb. He was a man of faith. He said to Joshua, give me my inheritance. She too, if you read the story, you will see that she went to her father and she told him, give me springs of water for my land. I want to have, the land is dry, I need to take an additional spring of water at the north and an additional spring of water at the south. Give me it. And Caleb, because she's his loving daughter, he gave them to her. Caleb had courage to ask Joshua for his share, and his daughter is the same. She was full of courage to ask him. Listen to me. Whatever you are, your children will be. Caleb, full of faith. His daughter, Aksa, full of faith. If you sit and look at the stock market and your shares and your investments and your dollar every day, all day, your son will be the same. If you sit and read your Bible every day, your daughter will be the same. If you watch soap operas on TV all the time, your son will be the same. If you come to church early and you're a deacon and you serve God, your daughter will be the same. Whatever you are, your son or daughter will be you. Will be you. Be careful. They learn from us. They will be like us. You like it or not. Two women of faith. The first of them, remember this name? Aksa. And if you read the text carefully, you will see that she was married to a man called Othniel. And next, after the book of Joshua, we will study the very interesting, lovely, great story book called the book of Judges. Othniel, her husband, was the first judge of Israel. The second women of faith are these 5 girls. These 5 girls, they were sisters. And we don't know their name, but we know that their father was called Zelophehad. At that time, the law was, if you have sons, they take the land when you die. If you don't have sons, bad luck. Your name is erased. All your property goes to your brother. Or if your brother is dead, to his children. And so these 5 girls, they went to Joshua, or if you remember, they actually went to Moses and they told him, this is not fair. Our father's name will be wiped out from our tribe. We don't have a brother, but we still demand that you give us a piece of land. At that time, that was very strange. How can a woman take an inheritance? And Moses prayed to God. And you know what God said? God answered Moses, if you read the text in Exodus, what these 5 women are saying is correct. Give them a piece of land. And this became a strange news in the land of Israel and all these lands. Women in the Bible are allotted. And that's why a lot of faiths, a lot of belief, a lot of cultures today, women don't get an inheritance. Or they get half the inheritance of boys or men. But not so when in the eyes of God. They asked and they got the land. They were confident in God's mercy, and God was merciful. We're almost done. Theme of 2. We talk about 2 cities. 2 cities. We talked about them in the back room. The cities of refuge. Someone who did something bad unintentionally should not worry, should not fear, but he should run, not walk, run to the city of refuge. And there he will not die. My beloved, our God is a pro-life God. What does that mean? That means God cares about life. Today, we don't care about life. We are legalizing lots of deaths. And you know exactly what I'm referring to. But our God is a pro-life God. Cities of refuge. If you've done something bad unintentionally, run and you will be safe. That's an example of what a city gate. And once you reach there, no one can touch you. If you've crossed the land, the people who are after you to take revenge, they cannot harm you. And as you said, you live in that land until the time of your trial, and then they will decide whether you're good or not. You stayed in that city until the priest died, and that's just a symbol of Christ dying on our behalf, that thing. But I don't want to go into much theology. The city of refuge. How many cities? 6 cities. 3 on the right, 3 on the left. And so they cover the whole land. You see, they're accessible. They're accessible. Here's a beautiful slide showing the cities of refuge. And mind you, one of them is, you can see, I don't know if you can see there, Hebron is one of them. Shechem is one of them. Kadesh, Barnea is one of them. Golan is one of them. Ramoth and Biza. Anyway, 6 cities of refuge. Please pay attention. Number 1. Are they low or are they high? All these cities were built on hills so that everybody can see. I want you just to mimic. God and Christ is our refuge today. The church is the refuge, the city of refuge today. Look at what these cities of refuge should look like. Number 1, they're everywhere so people can find them easily. Number 2, they're always on a hill so they're easily seen. Number 3, they were always unlocked. The gates were never closed. You can access the city day or night. And so should our churches be. Jesus' arms are always open for anyone who comes any time. And the people were supposedly to build roads so that they access them easily. The roads had to be paved and lit. And they had to put signs saying, that's the city of refuge. We too should put signs saying where God is. You are a sign. You yourself are a post in your workplace, pointing to Jesus, to churches, to Mass, to Bible study. We should make the city of refuge, our God, accessible to the whole world. Please note, if the guy who did something bad or wrong or killed did not make it to the city of refuge, he is going to die. No salvation without God. If you can't make it, you have lost your salvation. Examples of refuge are right there before you. God is our refuge and strength. Although there were many cities, in today's church there's only one God. At that time, only if you did an accidental death. Today, even if you did intentional death, you can still come to Christ. Other examples of refuges are in front of you on the screen. Saint Mary is a refuge to many sinners. And all the saints of our church are also a refuge. Choose one of them. How well do you know the saints of our church? How well do you have a relationship with these saints? And they are true saints. Make no mistake, you will see them when we go into paradise. Last but not least, the towns. And we talked about how important God cared for His priests. And He was their inheritance. We talked about this in detail. Not one of God's good promises to Israel failed. God kept His promise. God kept His promise. God's promises were all fulfilled. I will close with this. Look at this slide. The orbits of the planets. Who puts them? The borders of the sea and the oceans. Who puts them? The boundaries of continents. Who puts them? The landmarks of cities and countries and continents. God sets all the boundaries. And I'll close with these 2 questions. Today is lecture of 2s. 2 questions for you. Question number 1. Do you respect other people's boundaries? This question is for you, not for the person next to you. Do you respect other people's boundaries? I know of husbands that are very loud at home. I know of wives who are very noisy at home. They just don't respect people's privacy, people's quietness. Do you respect the property line of your neighbor? Do you respect people's freedom of speech? Do you respect people's freedom of choice, freedom of language, where to live, freedom of speech? Do you respect the boundaries of other people or not? And the last slide is the second question. Are you content with your share? Are you content with your allotment? Are you happy where you are today? Are you happy with the boundary that God had set for you? You know, if God gave you a weakness, it's a boundary. If God gave you an illness, it is one of the boundaries He set for you. If God gave you an opportunity, it is one of the boundaries He set for you. If God gave you a job, a home, it is the boundary that God had set for you. Your spouse is one of the boundaries that God, are you happy with that boundary? Do you want to get rid of your spouse? Are you not happy with your children? Are you not happy with your career, with your achievements? All these boundaries are set by God. They are set by God for you so that you seek Him. You seek Him through that pain. You seek Him through that weakness. You seek God.
Hosanna Bible Study Group meets every Friday, 7:30 p.m. till 9:30 p.m. at SMSV Church. The website is hosannabiblestudy.com, where you can sign up for weekly emails, and you will get emails about upcoming lecture and the questions and everything else.